this bill of comprehensive police reform to be... just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us. It sounds like gunshots. I'll let you know what this is. These seem to be gunshots.
Get down!
Shit, where is that?
We're okay.
We're just gonna go.
Let's go. Down.
So that was the scene today at the George Floyd Memorial. Tragically, ironically, a gangland shootout, right at the site where people are honoring the memory of George Floyd on the anniversary of his death. Unfortunately, while this particular incident might get a little more attention because it's on the anniversary, it is part of a pattern of increased violence that has been taking place in that autonomous zone where the police are not allowed to be. This would go back to the defunding and abolishing the police doesn't seem to actually address the problems that take place, in regards to crime. So I took this clip here, especially because this is the concerns of a couple of black business owners who live in the area who are having problems with their business because of the lack of police presence and the increase in violence. This was actually done on March 9th, 2021.
Where George Floyd died. Over the weekend, a man was shot in the nearby Uptown neighborhood, and a man died after being shot at 38th Street and Chicago Avenue. Reg Chapman has more from business owners at 38th in Chicago who are concerned about customer safety and a lack of resources to stay afloat.
After the incident that claimed George Floyd's life, 38th in Chicago has become known across the globe as a place of healing. Peace and respect are requirements to enter, but something has changed lately.
They don't feel safe. People are selling their homes. They hear gunshots. The police, they know the police not coming into the neighborhood.
Sam Willis owns Just Turkey. Willie Frazier owns Finish Touch Boutique, both businesses within feet of where George Floyd took his last breath, both now suffering from lack of customers because of the violence.
It can happen anytime. Yesterday, like you mentioned, it happened it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, over 20 shots fired. Lady and her 3 children ran into my restaurant.
2 of my customers had to get down on the ground yesterday because of gunfire.
The Free State of George Floyd is surrounded by barricades that these business owners believe protect the people who are doing wrong.
Well, they got the street closed off yet. It defined it. The police can't come in there. So whatever wrongdoing they did out here, outside the zone, once they make it to the zone, they're free. Police can't get them.
Minneapolis police have responded to incidents inside the zone and say it will continue to patrol the area in hopes of stopping the gunfire. Both Frazier and Willis want more to be done to protect lives and bring business back to the area.
You get shot in the zone, ambulance can't come in there. Nobody can come in there and get you. So I don't know if a building burned down, I don't know if they let a fire truck in there. They might let it burn down to the ground.
We know this is a prime location. You have visitors coming all across the world, and for them to experience gunshots and all type of violence is putting a black eye not only on our state, but let alone the city of Minneapolis.
So far, no financial help from the city both men feel abandoned by. Reg Chapman, WCCO 4 News.
So again, I thought, anyway, that supposedly removing police from the situation is supposed to make it more safe. I don't know who it makes it safer for, unless you're referring to the criminals who are now having an easier time of having shootouts. There was 2 articles that I looked at about this, and where George Floyd was killed, this is in the New York Times, solemn by day and violent by night. This apparently does not take into account the broad daylight gunfight that we just watched. But this was all the way back from July 29th, 2020. And basically 2 months after the police killing of George Floyd, the 4-block area of South Minneapolis, where he gasped his last breaths, remains a sacred space, a no-go zone for officers. There is a neatly trimmed garden anchored by a sculpture of a raised fist. There are colorful murals and the words "I can't breathe" painted across the pavement, as well as the names of the dozens of other black people killed by police. At night, though, the space is increasingly a battleground with shootings and drug overdoses. The area has had an uptick in gun violence similar to what other cities have seen in the wake of protests. At all times, the neighborhood brims with emotion. In its totality, it feels like the raw center of America's reckoning with racial injustice. The chaos at night has presented city officials with the challenge of how to reassert control of the space without setting off new waves of anger, all while maintaining it as a solemn place to honor Mr. Floyd in Ferguson, where the police killing of Michael Brown set off protests when officers moved to clear out a memorial. So basically they're trying to avoid, protesters trying to fight them about taking it down. But in Minneapolis, at least for now, the city is moving cautiously. So it says, even so, elected officials are fielding a growing number of calls from residents concerned about the violence and loud noise at night in the area, where among several incidents, a pregnant woman was recently killed. Actually, this is a short article, so we'll zoom over to that, but this is the one that was linked here in the Star Tribune. Pregnant woman fatally shot in South Minneapolis. Baby delivered. A pregnant woman was shot Sunday night in South Minneapolis. This was on July 6th, and died after being rushed to a hospital. The woman's baby was delivered at HCMC and placed in the neonatal intensive care unit. There was no word in the newborn's condition, according to the police spokesman. Shots were heard about 9:15 p.m. near the intersection of East 37th Street and South Elliott Avenue. Officers found the woman inside a vehicle suffering from an apparent gunshot wound. Police have classified the woman's death as a homicide. No one has been arrested. So, coming back to here, what people aren't recognizing is that people who live there are having a very, very challenging time from the unlawfulness that is occurring after the sun goes down, or now, as I pointed out earlier, apparently also in broad daylight, said Andrea Jenkins, a member of the city council whose district includes the memorial space. Mind you, this is the same city council that voted to defund the police and then voted to refund the police, and had the gall to complain about the increase in crime that happened around that time, including like carjackings and such that all skyrocketed. But anyway, there are constant gunshots every night. Emergency vehicles can't get in. Disabled people are not able to access their medications, their appointments, their food deliveries, etc. It's a very challenging situation. Ms. Jenkins, who noted that the area has historically been plagued by gang violence, has also been taking a leading role in discussions over how to memorialize Mr. Floyd's killing. One proposal suggests making the garden permanent. Other ideas include a civil rights museum and renaming Chicago Avenue in honor of Mr. Floyd. So I guess, looking over all of this, it really just kind of comes down to the fact that you guys didn't want any police there. Now you have no police there. What is it exactly that you're trying to make safer? It comes back, like what I said earlier. How are you making your community safer by removing the police from it? They're safe from being, the possibility of the numbers actually say that only about 1,000 people are killed by police in a given year out of over 3,500,000 police interactions. So you've made people safer from the possibility that they may be one of those 1,000 people, which is an average number that I might add is not basically adjusted for any kind of legitimate shootings. That's just the overall number. So statistically, you are more likely to drown in a swimming pool, die in a house fire, or die in childbirth than you are being killed by a policeman. Criminals, at least from one of the statistics I found, usually kill about 24,000 a year. Obviously not the priority, though, for some reason. But anyway, she says the daytime is fine. Once again, this is a while ago. But when the other crowd comes at night, I can't call the police, and that scares the hell out of me. We have kids in this home, and I do want police to protect families. It's a hard balance. I'm happy this incident brought change, but I want to feel safe. So, they basically go on to kind of describe that, that it was better during the daylight, but obviously that's changed now. And it says here, oh, actually, I guess we'll read this too. Sunset to sundown is very different from sundown to sunset. My nighttime world after sunset, I have taken care of double gunshot wounds, drug overdoses. One night, a man wounded by gunfire drove a bicycle past the barricade, she said, before collapsing outside her tent and yelling, "I'm shot, I'm shot." After the pregnant woman was killed nearby in early July and having dodged gunfire herself, Dr. Kowecki limited the hours of her medic station from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. But residents say that nothing happening at night diminishes the atmosphere that prevails in the daylight. Again, yeah, it's not working out like that anymore. This is the space where the community members want to decentralize white feelings and prioritize black pain. Okay, so you decentralized white feelings and you're prioritizing black pain by providing a space where people of color can more easily get away with shooting one another. Well done. I think it's important that white people are intentional with the ways they are using this space. So to wrap this up, I guess to those of you who, again, want to defund and abolish the police department, I've yet to hear any kind of solutions that are going to solve this problem. You can, I don't see, for example, social workers being called to the scene of a shooting. I understand the concept behind, trying to create more social programs to cut out poverty, which is at its root the cause of, most of the crime problems, when you dig very down to the deep root of the issue. But you can look at the root causes of something without looking at the trunk of the tree, because if we cut out the root, the trunk, the tree is going to fall. And if you haven't figured out the solution on how to deal with the tree, you can't be playing around with the roots. That's basically where we're at, and until you change the culture that venerates the idea that people of color should shoot one another over trivial things like dissing one another, you're going to continue to have these problems. There has to be a cultural change that goes hand in hand with the things that you're doing. Because, and there's never any activism about that. Nobody wants to spend any time trying to put any social pressure on anybody to overcome the culture that goes on in the ghetto. And I say that as somebody who grew up there. This is not something that I'm not just some white guy who never experienced it. I heard gunshots on a regular basis where I grew up, and my neighbor's house turned into a crack house during the time that I was there. So, but where I went to school, these kinds of problems, were essentially encouraged by the culture of the people who lived there. Getting good grades, getting a job, these things were things that kids could actually be picked on, if not beat up for doing. Hell, using large words, like just having a high vocabulary, was a reason to get beat up. And until you address that problem, no amount of throwing money at the issue and no amount of removing police from the issue is going to solve this one. Thanks for listening.